Welcome everyone to this remote council meeting. The meeting is being held remotely because restrictions are still in place and council is under advice from the state government and the Chief Health Officer to conduct council meetings online. The normal live website will be mimicked as much as possible, but because this is a remote meeting, there may run into a few technical issues. I ask you to be patient with us. If, for some reason, the webcast drops out, remember that the meeting will be placed on our website afterwards, so you can watch it at your leisure. Thank you. Mr. Benny, is there any apologies?
No apologies, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Tonight we acknowledge the traditional owners of this land on which we are meeting and pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, while also respecting their deep connection to country and culture. Item 1.3, the offering of prayer. The offering of the part of Council's commitment to recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community. The prayer this evening will be offered by Pastor David Owens from the Danong Ministers Fellowship and will be read by Councillor Lim. Thank you, Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Mayor. Dear Lord God Almighty, Creator of heaven and earth, and breather of life into man, we thank you for our freedoms and prosperity and commit this meeting to you. We thank you for the dedication of the councillor and officer and ask for your blessing to be upon tonight's meeting. We ask for wisdom for the councillor who have such a big responsibility to govern this wonderful and diversity of Greater Dandenong. Grant each and every decision to be guided by you, Lord, for the betterment of the city and its citizens. In Jesus' name, Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Council, I'd like to make a statement about Merle Mitchell, who passed away earlier this month. Born and raised in Dandenong, Merle Mitchell was a remarkable woman who, with determined leadership, empathy, purpose and passion, made an extraordinary contribution to her local community in many different ways and across all levels of government. An active and often foreboding lobbyist and lifelong advocate for equality, community and diversity, Merle's role in the development of community services in the newly established area of Springvale in the early 1960s, in particular the establishment of Sandown Park State School and kindergarten facilities, the establishment of Springvale Community Aid and Advice Bureau, SCAB, and the Springvale Indo-Chinese Mutual Assistance Association, SICMA. The Springvale Neighbourhood House and Family Mediation Centre, who move into an advisory role in the area of social security through BCOS and ACOS, and her dedicated work as chair of the Enterprise Hostel History Project Organising Committee, paved the way for our extended communities to proudly celebrate its rich history, custom and culture. Together with her late husband Eric Mitchell, former City of Springvale Councillor and Mayor, Merle will be affectionately and respectfully remembered for her outstanding and sustainable involvement in the community life to help all residents feel welcome, respected and valued. Our thoughts and prayers are with Rick and Sally and their families at this sad time. Item 1.4, confirmation of previous minutes. I need a mover, Councillor, please.
Councillor Formoso to move.
Moved by Councillor Formoso, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item 1.5, Disclosures of interest. Mr. Benny?
Mayor and councils, there are three disclosures this evening. The first is from Councillor Jim Ametti. It relates to item 2.3.6, Town Planning Application 1399 1401 1403 Heatherton Road, Dandenong North, PLA 20/0308. The type of interest is a general conflict of interest. The nature of the interest is that Councillor Ametti is the director of a company that owns a property at 1481 Heatherton Road that may have its residential amenity affected by the proposed development. Councillor Ametti will be required to restate that interest and leave the meeting at the item. The next is from Councillor Lloyd Trong. It relates to item 5.2, Notice of Motion number 13, a rescission motion, 46 to 62 Darren Road and 55 to 67 Kimura Road, Springvale South, PLSM 21/0002. The type of interest is a general conflict of interest. The nature of the interest is that Councillor Trong has a property which is a residence and business that will have its residential amenity affected by the proposed development. He too will be required to restate the interest and leave the meeting at the item. And the third disclosure is from Councillor Eden Foster. It is also for item 5.2, Notice of Motion number 13, rescission, number 46 to 62 Darren Road and 55 to 67 Kimura Road, Springvale South, PLSM 21/0002. The type of interest is a general conflict of interest. The nature of the interest is that Councillor Foster's mother lives in Andleon Way, which will have its residential amenity affected by the proposed development. She too will be required to redeclare the item and leave the chamber or the webcast for the item. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Benny. Item number 1.6, Adoption of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes. The Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 27th of August 2021. Minutes of this meeting are presented to Council for adoption. I need a mover, please. Councillor Gerard, seconded by
Councillor Formoso.
Councillor Foster. Formoso. No, I saw Councillor Foster first. Sorry. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2, Officers' Report Part 1. 2.1, Documents for Sealing, moved by
Councillor Tan.
Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Trong. Is there any questions, councillors?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Tan.
I just want to say congratulations to all our staff who from community service. So we've got 8 people that reach 10 years of service to the City of Greater Dandenong and 1 for 20 years. So Jacqueline Gray, Kimberly Coleman, Trent Cascon Gulumi, Ashata Shami, which is 20 years service to the City of Greater Dandenong, Latita Nay, Kula Kalazulgu, Kathy Richards, Andrea Carbon, Joel Brick, and also we have a deeds of renewal of lease between City of Greater Dandenong Council and RMBL Investment for level 4 and 5, 225 London Street, Dandenong. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tan. Is there any other questions or comments? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.2, Documents for Tabling. 2.2.1, Petitions and Joint Letters, moved by
Councillor Lim.
Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.3, Statutory Planning Applications. 2.3.1, Planning Decisions issued by Planning Minister's Delegate August 2021. Moved by
Move Councillor Dark.
Councillor
Second,
Dark,
Councillor
seconded
Mamedi.
by, Councillor Mamedi. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.3.2, Planning Delegate Decisions Issued, August 2021. Moved by
Councillor Dark.
Councillor Tan, seconded.
All right, Councillor Dark and seconded by Councillor Tan. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.3.3, Town Planning Application number 1 to 3, Gladstone Road, Danong. Planning Application number PLN 21/0152. Moved by
Move Councillor Dark.
Second,
Councillor
Councillor
Dark,
Milkovich.
seconded by Councillor. Sorry, I didn't quite get the second one.
Milkovich.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Pardon me.
Can I make a comment?
So, who's going to do first?
Councillor
The mover
Garrett
gets
can go
to say it first if he
thank
wants to make.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that
The mover. Sorry.
How pleasing it is that this development will have a lot of environmentally sustainable elements, including tree canopy planting in the car park and 4 Green Star environmentally sustainable elements, no gas, and there has been considerable attention paid to the environmental aspects of this development.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly, did you say you wanted to make a comment?
Yes, please, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just adding to what Councillor Garrard mentioned, the sustainability outcomes of this planning application. I'd like to mention the economic benefits that we particularly need going through COVID. I think this represents a huge investment of $20 million in Dandenong, along with 180 construction jobs and ongoing employment for 150 staff. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Mamedi.
Yes, many of you might remember that this site was the site of Minister Carpet, which burnt down many, many years ago. And it was meant to be a Corfland store a couple of years ago until Corfland pulled out. So it's great to see that something's going to be built at this gateway into Dandenong, which is a brand new Woolworths store. And as Councillor O'Reilly said, it's going to create lots of jobs and permanent jobs as well. So I look forward to I think it's a Safeway, a Woolworths store that's going to be open, and a few other little stores as well. So I think it's an eyesore at the moment, and I look forward to the construction starting soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mamedi. Anyone else?
Yeah, Councillor Milkovich.
Yeah, Councillor Milkovich, please.
Just wanted to voice my pleasure with the decision that Woolworths, which is a well-known and well-respected Australian-owned and operated company, has given a City of Greater Dandenong a vote of confidence, a $20 million vote of confidence in regards to building a supermarket. Ever since Bunnings, in my opinion, dreadfully vacated the site about 5-6 years ago, it's been sitting vacant. And as Councillor Mamedi mentioned, first we had Corfland, but it was a bit of a doomed decision, and we couldn't proceed with that one. And now I'm very, very happy to say that this is a gateway to Dandenong, as Councillor Mamedi has mentioned before, and it'll be great to see a well-respected, well-known Australian-owned company, like I said, investing a considerable amount of money into local landscape, and also as a vote of confidence for the local labour force, which is great to see. So they've got my support all the way. It's great to see that this decision's been made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also just want to say, congratulations and welcome the new Woolworths store. Just my question to the relevant officer regarding to trolley issue. So it's going to be, we can see for a few years now, we can see
Councillor
a lot
Tan,
of trolley that's been abandoned on our nature.
Councillor Tan, time for questions have finished. You should have asked that question before.
So
You can
I thought
ask
you
that in
said
councillor
any comments.
you can actually ask that in councillor question time, all right?
All right, it's fine.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment? No? We move on to the next item. Item number 2.3.4, Town Planning Application number 215 Keys Road, Keysborough, Planning Application number PLN 20/0585. Moved by
Move, Councillor Dark.
Councillor Dark and seconded by
Councillor O'Reilly.
Councillor Milkovich.
Councillor O'Reilly, thank you. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 2.3.5, Town Planning Application number 6 Spring Road, Springvale South, Planning Application number PLN 20/0510.
Move, Councillor Dark.
Moved by Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Milkovich. Is there any questions, councillors?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Mehmeti.
I'm looking at the plans of this development, Mayor, and it seems to be 2 double stories at the rear of the property. Would the relevant officer comment on why his decision to grant a permit when council policy is normally to have a single story to the rear of the property?
Mr. Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you for the question. The council local policy does prefer single-storey dwellings at the rear, but it does also go on to say that if double-storey dwellings are proposed and they have significant side and rear setbacks, then that can be supported in that particular instance. And in this case, the side and rear setbacks are considered to be quite significant, and therefore officers recommended approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you for that feedback. What would the recommendation setback be that council would entertain?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Again, the minimum dimension that we would generally entertain would be a minimum of 3 metres from the side setback for upper floors. If we can get that larger, which we do in the case of this particular application, then that would be preferable. But 3 metres is a minimum for a guide. Thank you.
Thank you. I just get a lot of questions asked, so it's good to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Any opposition? As there's no opposition, I'll declare this item carried. Item number 2.3.6, Town Planning Application numbers 1399, 1401 and 1403 Heatherton Road, Dandenong North, Planning Application number PLA 20/0308.
Mayor, I've got to declare an interest. It's a general conflict of interest. I'm a director of a company that owns a property on Heatherton Road, so I'll leave the meeting at this time.
Thank you. He's gone. I will read it again. Item number 2.3.6, Town Planning Application numbers 1399, 1401 and 1403 Heatherton Road, Dandenong North, Planning Application number PLA 20/0308. I need a mover, thanks.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Sorry, Councillor O'Reilly, and seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Can we please have Councillor Mehmeti back in? Yeah. He's back in. Thank you. Item number 3, question time public. Mr. Benny.
Thank you, Mayor. The first question this evening is from Vinay Prasad. Why does the draft Dandenong Biodiversity Action Plan that has been out for public consultation, A, make no mention of our cultural diverse community in the plan, B, list no ethnic groups or migrant service providers that have been consulted with in the creation of the plan, and C, have no engagement or education approach tailored to our culturally diverse community going forward? Mr Kearsley could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for Vinay Prasad for the question, and I'll take the items under question A, make no mention of our cultural diverse community in the plan. We're currently reviewing all submissions that we've received, very extensive ones, and they will be reviewed and amended to ensure the significance of the Greater Dandenong's cultural diversity is captured. Under item B, list no ethnic groups or migrant service providers that have been consulted in with the creation of the plan. I can advise that during the consultation period, we promoted the draft Biodiversity Action Plan through targeted social media posts, environment networks and key community interest groups, including the City of Greater Dandenong Multicultural Communities Network and Multicultural and People Seeking Asylum Advisory Committee, to ensure our COL committees were actively engaged and given the opportunity to provide feedback. Their feedback, along with others, will be considered to formalise the Biodiversity Action Plan in the coming months. With regards to question C, have no engagement or education approach tailored to our culturally diverse community going forward, the answer I can advise is the draft Biodiversity Action Plan refers to environmental education and community engagement currently on pages 30 and 31 of the draft, to the review and update of the environmental education and engagement program, and the development of a biodiversity media plan to better promote, educate and engage all residents within this important item. These actions will enable us to tailor our environmental engagement programs to ensure our culturally diverse communities are actively engaged. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Kearsley. Mr Benny, please.
Question 2 is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. What is the status of the feasibility study for a First Nations community space in Greater Dandenong, and when is there going to be a public announcement of the outcome and next steps? Mr Fiddler could respond.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Kerwin, for your question. The draft report of the Greater Dandenong First Nations Community Space Feasibility Report will be discussed at the Council briefing session on the 18th of October, and the next steps will be discussed following this briefing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
Question 3 is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. What is the status and timeframes for the 5-year review of the Greater Dandenong Sustainability Strategy 2016 to 2030? And when and how is the Greater Dandenong Sustainability Advisory Committee being consulted? Mr Jackson.
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Mr Kerwin. The Sustainability Strategy Refresh is currently in the final stages of internal review. And following this, the draft will be shared with the Sustainability Advisory Committee for comment, which is currently scheduled to occur in November. Once these comments have been actioned, the draft will be presented for Council for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Mr Benny, please.
Question 4 is also from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. What is the status of the Greater Dandenong Climate Emergency Engagement and Mobilisation Plan, and what are its timeframes for completion? Mr Jackson.
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and again, thank you for the question, Mr Kerwin. Officers are currently working with RMIT students to develop an initial communications and project strategy, which is expected to be completed in October. Following this, the Community Sustainable Advisory Committee will be engaged to further guide the development of the plan. Given some of the difficulties of meaningful engagement during our current COVID-19 pandemic, the timeframe for completion and delivery is now expected to occur by the end of the 2021-22 financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Mr Benny, please.
Question 5 is from Sabrina Miletto of Dandenong. It has been in the Council minutes over the years that there is going to be community consultation on the Mills Reserve Precinct Plan. However, to date, there has been none. When is that going to occur? Mr Kearsley.
Mr Keasley, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank Ms Mileto for the question. I can advise that preliminary consultation regarding Mills Reserve was undertaken as part of the recent community survey for the Dandenong Wellbeing Centre. It is also envisaged that draft plans for Mills Reserve and also schematic plans for the Dandenong Wellbeing Centre will be released for further public comment later this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Mr Benny, please.
Question 6 is from Sylvia Mastrogiovanni of Dandenong. Of the actual Keysborough South Community Hub building, what is the floor area of these particular components? A, total community wing, i.e. the east wing of the building minus toilets. B, children's services rooms. C, children's services private staff space / admin area / waiting area. D, children's services consulting suites, maternal and child health and other. E, any public toilets changing places. F, the main foyer. And G, the total floor area of any other common space, i.e. airlocks and corridors, etc. Mr Fiddler, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Sylvia, for your question. The question is quite detailed in nature and also has aspects that may be deemed confidential, so I will take this question on notice. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr Benny, please.
Question 7 is from Susan Smith of Dandenong. The Dandenong Community Hub outcome at the last council meeting was very welcome. However, while there were over 50 responses to the consultation summary only gave 10 dot points of community responses. Where was the usual appendix to council reports where they either had verbatim comments or collated summaries? From reading previous council meetings, this was supposed to be in the council report last meeting. Mr Fiddler, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Susan Smith, for your question. Results from Council's May-June round of consultation on the Dandenong Community Hub will be incorporated into the draft business case and will be summarised in the next phase of public engagement concerning the draft concept plan. Our consultation is just open for 1 month as of today, so the next phase will be the development then of the business case. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
Question 8 is from Philip Plews of Dandenong. When is the consultation on the concept designs for the Dandenong Hub starting? Mr Fiddler.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Philip, for your question. So consultation and engagement on the concept designs for the Dandenong Community Hub has commenced today, and feedback is sought from the community from now until the 25th of October. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
Question 9 is from Ailsa Lord of Noble Park. After declaring a climate emergency last year, why would a Greening Your Neighbourhood strategy be proposed to be endorsed tonight that will make little or no impact to the rapidly falling tree canopy cover in Greater Dandenong? Mr Jackson.
Mr Jackson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Ms Lord. The draft Greening Our Neighbourhood strategy focuses on retaining and improving vegetation on private land, and it's important to note that this forms one part of the overall project. This project also includes the previously adopted Greening Our Cities strategy, which focuses on improving vegetation cover on public land, and also the future consideration of a potential tree protection local law that Council will consider. Together, all of these actions are considered that they will increase canopy coverage across the municipality. The draft Greening Our Neighbourhood strategy, which is subject to consideration tonight, places a strong focus on improving the community's knowledge regarding the benefits of vegetation, and it is known that where there is a strong understanding and knowledge of the benefits of vegetation, people are much more likely to retain and plant additional trees and other plants. Further to this, the draft strategy also contains actions to improve existing planning scheme policies regarding the requirements for additional planting of vegetation for new developments. And as such, the draft Greening Our Neighbourhood strategy is considered to be an important step in improving vegetation coverage across the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Mr Benny, please.
Question 10 is from Gay Guest of Keysborough. There is a huge anomaly in our community which is fast becoming a chasm as certain sections get to use and abuse their privileges in dog parks and playgrounds, holding picnics and training together, yet our aqua facilities are still locked up. In New South Wales, pools are starting to open up. Protocols that were in place between lockdowns worked, booked in for a session, and the changing rooms were not available, just in and out. There is a huge section of the community that are lamenting the fact that their only source of exercise has been taken away from them and joyfully named happy hour because of the duration of their booked session. When will our pools be open again? And while the show has allowed elite sections of the community to have their freedoms, he has certainly excluded a group that is suffering from lack of comradeship and social isolation. It means that some are turning to other LGAs that are offering a fabulous variety of weekly programs via Zoom. Sadly, this has not happened in CGD, and whilst October was always a month to look forward to, once again, for the second year in a row, this is not going to happen. People want their community facilities open, just like these overcrowded dog parks and playgrounds, as unfortunately our buildings are lying idle and are a drain on our public purse. Does our community hub have an air filtering system that will purify and filter air particles? Will this be something that will have to be installed in all community facilities? If schools will have these systems, do we need to install these in our places together? Mr Fiddler can respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Gay, for your question. Council, like the community, is very keen to see our facilities open up for community use when the directions of the Chief Health Officer permit. Today, Council has opened all facilities as restrictions have been changed. In accordance with the directions, tennis facilities will be able to be reopened this week with strict requirements and capacity limits in place. Based on the advice from the Chief Health Officer, outdoor aquatic facilities are scheduled to open on the 26th of October with a cap of 150 fully vaccinated persons. The YMCA has also scheduled virtual classes, not just for members, but for all of the community. So I suggest and recommend having a look at the website on the YMCA. Council also participates in daily forums to receive advice and information as advised by the Chief Health Officer on all COVID matters. We have not received any advice to date from the Chief Health Officer regarding filtration, ventilation or changes to public facilities. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Mr Benny, please.
Question 11 is also from Gay Guest of Keysborough. As Council is considering their Urban Forest Strategy 21 to 28 and Greening Our Neighbourhood Strategy 21 to 28 tonight, when will Council stop residents concreting their yards, in some cases both back and front, and fine them for doing so? We cannot have these touted policies sitting in Council offices' computer files and on bookshelves if you allow or overlook the fact that certain areas of the LGA are just wall-to-wall concrete where the water has nowhere to run or be absorbed and only adds to climate change, and you don't enforce these policies. Watching the Council webinars, there has been a lack of consistency in decision-making and voting which is quizzical to the viewing public. You can't debate one way on one item and then completely flip your thinking on the next. It is evident that personal agendas are coming into play and there is no consistency in enforcing strategies that are meant to protect residential amenity and aesthetics. Why? We need to collectively rise above this and be better at administering policies that indeed protect the residents and our surrounds. Mr Jackson.
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Mr Guest. Both the planning scheme and building regulations set out the requirements for permeability of sites, including to the extent to which properties can be concreted. Where these requirements are breached and Council becomes aware of this, action is taken to require the landowner to rectify the situation. If the matter is not resolved to Council requirements, then further action can often be taken in the form of a fine or prosecution. One of the key aims of the Greening Our Neighbourhood strategy is to better educate residents about the benefits of vegetation cover, which hopefully will lead to less issues such as the one that's described in the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Mr Benny, please.
Question 12 is from Pam Naylor of Noble Park. I live in Noble Park where, according to tonight's agenda, canopy cover has dropped an alarming 4% from 18% to 14% in only 5 years. Earlier this year, there was a consultation where the majority of residents supported the introduction of a local law to deal with this problem. So why in the recommendation to be voted on tonight is there no recommendation to introduce a local law? Mr Jackson, Madam Mayor.
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Ms Naylor. As mentioned in my earlier answer regarding the Greening Our Neighbourhood strategy, this strategy just forms one part of the larger urban forest project. Following tonight's consideration of the strategy, further assessment will be given to the potential of a tree protection local law. This will involve further discussion with councillors in the coming months to discuss the outcomes of the community consultation that's previously been undertaken, and then for council to determine whether it will pursue the local law or not. The local law matter is being considered separately of the Greening Our Neighbourhood strategy, as they involve different considerations and have a different implementation mechanisms, therefore warranting individual consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Mr Benny, please.
The final question 13 tonight is from Gay Guest of Keysborough. When will council let the residents know about the findings of Lot 1 if all the peer reviews are now with council and council has had time to digest all the information? Will there be revisions to the construction of Lot 1 and the rest of the queries over 452 Cheltenham Road in regard to the safety issues, in particular to separate trucks, vehicles and pedestrian access from one another? Will Orchard Road traffic, vehicle and pedestrian, a street directly behind the first row of townhouses, be able to access the main slipway to Home Co, or will they be prohibited from doing that, as it is a blind side to the traffic coming off Cheltenham Road, which is about a car's length from the turn-off? Right now it looks like it will be part of the open road network. What will the outcome of the power pole that abuts Lot 1 be after the peer review? Do you believe heavy vehicles entering the Home Co site off Springvale Road and leaving beside the childcare centre onto Cheltenham Road will be as safe as you are trying to tell us? In response, Madam Mayor, I can advise that this remains work in progress. This question relates to two separate matters, being the existing commercial Home Co development and the new residential development at 452 Cheltenham Road, Keysborough. In terms of the new residential development, council has received the independent reviews and has presented the initial findings to council. A meeting will now be sought between council officers and the developers, and once completed, the independent reviews will be publicly released, along with any recommendations presented to the developers. With regard to the existing commercial development of Home Co, officers will be working with the landowners separately to see what additional measures can be agreed on with regard to the perceived vehicle and pedestrian conflicts from the new uses. That concludes questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, Officers Report Part 2, 4.1 Policy and Strategy, 4.1.1 Urban Forest Strategy 2021 to 28, and Greening Our Neighbourhood Strategy 2021 to 28. Moved by Councillor Gerard, seconded by Councillor Lim. Is there any questions, councillors?
Yes, please, Mayor. Councillor
Yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mayor. The preface to the question is that potential tree removal permits to encourage tree retention are mentioned in the report before council. Councillors have heard significant advocacy regarding tree removal permits, and I think it's important that this council considers the potential benefits of tree removal permits, as increased canopy coverage is the main practical way that council can mitigate climate change impacts in the form of heat islands. So the question to the Acting Director of Planning is, when is consideration and finalisation of a decision on stage 2, as mentioned in the report, the local law regarding trees on private land, when is consideration and finalisation scheduled for? Thank you, Mayor.
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor O'Reilly. Following tonight's decision, it is intended to have a further discussion with councillors before the end of the year. I would imagine around about the November time, to further consider the potential of implementing a local law. If council decides at that time that they would like to pursue that, then we'll need to commence the formal statutory process to introduce a local law. So that would most likely run into early next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Councillor O'Reilly, is there any other questions?
That was all. That was the only question. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.1.
Madam Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to thank my fellow councillors for passing this important strategy tonight. It provides an important framework for education advocacy and important strategic partnerships to further protect our community as we move further into the climate emergency. I just wish to thank the councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Item number 4.1.2, Rowley Allen Reserve Keysborough Concept Plan. Moved by
Move Councillor Dark.
Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Tan. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number
Madam Mayor, can I make a comment? Sorry.
Councillor Garrard.
I just want to say this is a significant development for the Keysborough area. I'm very pleased to see that this has been passed tonight. It's a fantastic addition to the environment and to the outdoor space in the Keysborough area. And I think we should acknowledge what a significant step this is.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Anyone else want to make a comment? Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I just wanted to echo the sentiment of what Councillor Garrett has just mentioned before. This is one of the projects which was started a couple of years ago with an idea to do with a lot of the reserves in the old Keysborough ward not having the right facilities in place. What we've seen is a substantial upgrade to the facilities as proposed, going out to all the local community groups and clubs who are users of this reserve. We had 174 responses. From the 174 responses, council's officers were able to work with the objectors and work with the clubs about their concerns. And what we have now is an absolute phenomenal state-of-the-art reserve. Once it's finished, it will be a place where people can be proud to come and go. And this is something that I'm very, very excited to see delivered. So thank you from my fellow councillors for supporting.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Item number 4.2, other. 4.2.1, draft minutes of Positive Ageing Advisory Committee meeting, the 12th of August 2021. Moved by
Councillor
Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Tan. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.2, draft minutes of the Disability Advisory Committee meeting, the 16th of August 2021. Moved by
Councillor Formoso.
Councillor Formoso, seconded by
Councillor Dark.
Councillor Dark. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.3, response to notice of motion number 7, rezoning land Dandenong North. Moved by
Councillor Milkovich.
Councillor Milkovich, seconded by Councillor Dark. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.
Comment, Madam Mayor, please.
Yes, Councillor Milkovich, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say a big thank you to council officers for pursuing this notice of motion and actually coming to a really positive result for residents of Cardinia Close in Dandenong North. This is a great thing that's happening. It's actually going to bring back Cardinia Close in line with the rest of Dandenong North being a neighbourhood residential zoning. It will also stop what we had an issue with originally to begin with, which was a real bad overdevelopment on one of the parcels of the land, which to which residents have sort of, risen up and provided their displeasure with, and council was also quite supportive of this decision being knocked back, and it's gone to VCAT, and the VCAT has knocked it back. So I'm hoping that this notice of motion or this further action will prevent in the first place what should have been done, which is to bring back that particular part of Dandenong North in line to a low density development zone, which is what that area particularly is, and it's home to all the large family homes. So residents, also the number of who I've spoken to today, thank you for that, and thank you to council officers once again for pursuing this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Item number 4.2.
Councillor Duck.
Sorry, Councillor Duck. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo the sentiment of what Councillor Milkovich said. This was an item that Councillor Milkovich had received a lot of feedback from, and I had received some from the residents, particularly who'd been impacted by the old Rado house that was proposed to be a significant development in the area. This is one of those minor outliers of our planning scheme which needed to be addressed. And it's good to see that having an independent company come back with what I think is an excellent report will ensure that that area that's bounded by Brady Road and by Stud Road is going to be protected for hopefully future generations. And it is a very nice, well-manicured section of Dandenong North. So I thank the councillors for supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Any other councillors want to make comment? No. We go on to the next item. Item number 4.2.4, Central Dandenong, COVID-19 response and Dandenong visitors attraction plan. Moved
Councillor
by
Mamedi.
Councillor Mamedi, seconded by Councillor Lim. Is there any questions, councillors?
Mayor, I've got a question.
Yeah, Councillor Mamedi.
I read that they extend the free footpath dining permits for additional 2 years to 30th of June 2023. Is that just for Lonsdale Street, or is that the whole of Central Dandenong? And actually, is it for the wider City of Greater Dandenong Central Business Districts?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. That is actually for the broader area of the City of Greater Dandenong, and my apologies for the report not spelling that out. That's come about especially in light of the need to promote and have outdoor dining facilities. You've probably heard a lot about the state government in the next couple of months promoting outdoor before indoor, and I think that's probably may continue for some time. So it's of value to support our businesses to ensure they have appropriate outdoor facilities. So that reference is for the whole of the municipality.
Would I need to put that in the recommendation as recommendation 6?
I'm happy to be taken as read, if that's what the intent is.
Okay, yep, that's fine.
Is that it, Councillor Mamedi?
That's my question, yep.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.5, list of
Madam Mayor, I'd like to say a few words.
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead, Councillor Mamedi.
You couldn't hear me, so thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks to the fellow councillors. This is a great initiative. Lonsdale Street, we've had for the past 2 years free parking, and this will add another 2 years on top of that. As we know, through COVID, lots of central business districts throughout Melbourne have been struggling. And I think for the last couple of years, I think Dandenong hasn't fared too bad actually regarding the COVID. But to give free dining permits, free permits, car for not paying for parking is a good initiative for people to come back to Central Dandenong. And I think the wayfinding, we're working on that as well. We've purchased the building next to the Chemist Warehouse. That will now soon hopefully start construction, where we will be able to have access to Thomas Street, so that'll be a new walkway. So we're continually to improve our central business district, and I think this is a very positive move, and I look forward to other things coming up in the next few budgets that we are working on to improve shopping in central Dandenong. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mamedi. Next item is item number 4.2.5, list of registered correspondence to Mayor and councillors. Moved by Councillor Tron. seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Tan.
Thank you. This is regarding to a letter from Noah Park resident asking council to remove some furniture from their house. I believe this resident is 70 years old. Regarding to the hard waste collection because he couldn't move the furniture by himself. Just to relevant officer, could you please advise if this request has been sorted? Thanks.
Mr. Keasley, come up. So, Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. Look, I'll have to follow up on that one in terms of getting a better understanding, but it certainly would not be an opportunity for staff to go within the property, within the house, to remove furniture. That's not generally a service that we offer. Usually the furniture is put out onto the front area of the garden, or at least the footpath, especially in these times of COVID, where there are limitations on people being in close proximity to others. But if you leave that one with me, I'll check with Mr. Taviera and the waste team to see whether or not we actioned that one, or we provided her with a different area of advice for that, for a solution.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Tan, I also got a letter from that gentleman as well, and I was trying to organise through either Rotary or Lions Club to actually go there and put the items out for him. I never heard back from either, so I don't know whether he was able to do, or they were able to help him or not. But Mr. Fiddler, you might, through the services that you control, maybe you would like to make a comment as well?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, if the gentleman is eligible for services, that's something that we'll have a look into, but I'll wait to hear first from Mr. Keasley to see if what's being able to be offered from his directorate, but we also can make some calls about that, and hopefully amongst us all it'll get to a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Sorry, Lana. I'm sorry, Councillor Formoso. Did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I actually had the same question that Councillor Tan had, and my suggestion was that we could perhaps get SES to assist in this matter if it's urgent, obviously due to COVID restrictions, but that's just a thought.
Thank you very much. If we all work together, we could probably help this gentleman out. All right? Thank you. Item number 5, notices of motion. 5.1, notice of motion number 12, Afghanistan advocacy. Moved by Councillor Gerard.
Second by Councillor Mamedi.
Seconded by Councillor Mamedi. Councillor Gerard, do you want to make a statement or just read it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would just like to acknowledge that, speak to this notice of motion that all of us have Afghan residents within our wards. The city of Dandenong has one of the highest, the Afghan community are the highest number of refugees in our community. They make a strong and important contribution to our community. The whole community is suffering right now. They have relatives over there who are suffering. We are hearing stories constantly of people who have died, of people who are in dire circumstances, of young girls that are being forced into marriage, of young girls that are frightened to leave their homes or go to school. So we are hearing harrowing stories from the Afghan community. So this notice of motion will address some of the issues that the community are suffering from right now. And so I'm very hopeful that it will be passed tonight to assist the community.
Right. Councillor Mamedi, do you want to make a statement on this as well?
I want to know if there's any opposition, Madam Mayor. This is a question time, so I'll just wait for now.
All right then, thank you very much. Is it moved by Councillor Garrard, seconded by Councillor Mehmeti? Is there any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Now, Councillor Mehmeti, do you want to say something now?
Yep. Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the councillors, and thank you to Councillor Garrard for initiating this notice of motion. My ward's probably got the largest Afghan community in the city of Greater Dandenong. I find them to be very friendly, really nice people. And just only over, I think about 20 months ago when we had the bushfires, I had hundreds and hundreds of my residents come to me asking how can their community help in the bushfires. They raised over $200,000 and these people have just recently arrived to Australia, and the ones that couldn't give any money towards that bushfire, they actually helped with send busloads there. So this community at the moment is really struggling, as we can see on the news of what's happening in Afghanistan. And I think Australia, to increase our intake to 20,000 people, I think it's something that we will benefit from in the long term. And it will be something very small, and we will be repaid over and over and over by these people who are desperate at the moment. So thank you to the councillors who have passed this motion, and I look forward to doing exactly what this motion says, and hopefully that the federal government can hear us and support this motion. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I just make an additional comment?
Yes.
Just that, thank Councillor Mehmeti for supporting this and for his comments as well. But it's really important that we address the issues of the residents here in Dandenong who are on bridging temporary visas, that it is not an option for them to return to Afghanistan in any time in the near future, and that that issue needs to be addressed, you know, as a priority, as well as Councillor Mehmeti said, the additional 20,000 intake from Afghanistan.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Anyone else want to make a comment on this? No, thank you. We go on to the next item. Item number 5.2, notices of motion number 13, rescission. Number 46 to 62 Darren Road and 55 to 67 Camura Road, Springvale South, planning application number PLSM 21/0002.
Moved, Councillor O'Reilly.
Yeah,
Madam
hang
Mayor,
on, we can't move it. Sorry, we've got two people
Mayor.
have declared an interest, so I've got to hear those first. Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just want to declare a conflict of interest of a general nature, as my mother lives on Anleon Way, which will have its residential amenity affected by the proposed development. So I will leave the meeting for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Trong, please. You're on mute, Councillor Trong. Councillor Trong, you're on mute.
Sorry. You know, I have to move away from meeting because I am a conflict of interest of this item 5.2, and I will be back soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trong. Have they left? They've left. Item number 5.2, notice of motion number 13, rescission. Number 46 to 62 Darren Road and 55 to 67 Camura Road, Springvale South, planning application PLSM 21/0002. Moved by
Councillor O'Reilly.
Councillor O'Reilly. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Lim.
Councillor Lim as seconder. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Councillor O'Reilly, do you want to make a statement before we call the other two back in?
Just a short statement, Mayor. I thank councillors for their reconsideration on this. It shows that we can always change our decisions based on new and clarified information. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Back a page. Top of that page. Yep. There was an alternate motion for this item, Seeing how the original item has been carried, the alternate is not in. Oh, sorry. We do need to move the alternate, sorry. I need a mover and a seconder for the alternate.
Moved Councillor O'Reilly.
Yep, Councillor O'Reilly, seconded by Councillor Lim. Is there any questions on the alternate motion? No. Is there any opposition? No. Thank you very much. The item is carried. We call the other two in. Sorry. Lloyd. We're just waiting on Councillor Trong to come back in. Here he is back in. Thank you. Item number 5.3, Notice of Motion 14, State Government Planning Reform Proposals. Moved by Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Milkovich. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried.
Mayor, if I could please speak.
Yes, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, thank you to my colleagues for supporting this motion. As it's been documented throughout many different councils, Yarra Ranges and Darebin are just a couple of them. There's proposed to be some significant planning changes, which are currently being discussed with a lot of planning departments within local councils. These changes are quite significant if they are to be proposed, because it actually then takes out any potential community consultation with residents. It takes out a lot of consultation, a lot of community feedback, which is vital when it comes to any sort of planning decisions being made these days. The state government has been very wary, and they're using the department having conversations with council officers. Some councils, I'm aware that Burundara, for example, that there's been a lot of rumours about confidentiality agreements being signed and those sort of things of the foray. This is important when it comes to any sort of planning reform. Any planning matter, no matter how it is, affects the amenity, it affects residents, it affects how the council responds and how we have the right infrastructure in place. So I think it is vitally important that in the event that they do have any changes, and this is not saying we're against any changes, but in the event that any are put forward, that there is proper community consultation to come into effect before anything is carried further. So thank you once again to my colleagues for supporting this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. We go to the next item. Item number 6, reports from councillors, delegates and councillors' questions. Councillor Dark, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report to give.
Thank you. Councillor Formoso, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to mention that I attended my second Southeast Leisure Board meeting on the 15th of September. It's fantastic. It's a very exciting time for all of Greater Dandenong. We had the inaugural CEO, John Clark, who has now commenced his position. And we've also got recruitment, which has begun for the appointment of the SEL Leadership and Operations Group. So people that are interested can find that on the Southeast Leisure website. Like I said, very exciting times. Another thing I would like to bring to our team's attention is that I would like to say a huge thank you to Charles Tavera's team in Infrastructure Services and Planning for the prompt and extremely efficient footpaths that have just been completed around the perimeter of Lindale Greens Primary School during the first week of the school holidays. So students and staff will certainly appreciate that upon their return in term 4 once the students are back. So thank you very much. I can't believe how quickly the team responded and then removed the damaged footpath and then replaced it. I saw the workers there when I went on my daily walk, and they were still filling the concrete even as it started to hail. So big thank you to the team for that. If Mr. Kearsley could pass that on, please.
Thank you, Councillor Formoso. Is there anything else, Councillor Formoso?
Yes, one more item that I'd like to bring to Council's attention. I had a call from Danong Post Office a few days ago saying that they've had a huge amount of hand sanitisers that they've received and would like to donate that to council. So I was thinking if council could perhaps pass that on to some organisations or one of our groups within the community that may find this of benefit. So if the appropriate officer could please let me know, and I can put you in contact with the post office and we can get that allocated to anyone in need in our community. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you. Is that you, Mr. Kearsley?
No, I think between myself and community services, we'll be able to take that on board.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foster, please.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Garrard, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Merle Mitchell, who was such a significant figure in Dandenong for so many years. She gave so much of her time and energy to make Dandenong a much better place. I served with Merle on the Positive Ageing Committee for some time and knew her to be a formidable advocate and community worker, and she will be sorely missed. Madam Mayor, I'd just also like to acknowledge the fantastic vaccination effort in the city of Dandenong. In the last 10 days, over 6,000 people have been through the Dandenong hub, the Dandenong vaccination hub at the market, and so there's been fantastic numbers in the last 2 weeks. So I wish to acknowledge that in the community, and every vaccination makes us, it puts us in a better position as the numbers start to rise, as we know they will. And that's it for everyone that gets vaccinated and is fully vaccinated. That's one person far less likely to become ill and end up in the Dandenong hospital. So I wanted to acknowledge that. Madam Mayor, to my questions, just a first question without notice is around the QR codes at dog parks. To the relevant officer, just regarding, I know that we are not required to put QR codes at dog parks. However, there has been an extraordinary number of people visiting the dog parks in Keysborough South and concerned by residents that COVID safe behaviours are not necessarily being displayed. So just wanting the relevant officer to talk to our ability to put QR codes at the dog parks and how far off that might be.
Mr. Kearsley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, in association with the Community Services and Emergency Management Group of Council, there was a decision made a couple of weeks ago that we would be relying solely on advice from the Chief Health Officer and the state government, and to put out contradictory advice with regards to QR codes where they're not required would not necessarily assist our community and could actually put us as a spotlight on us as to why we've done it in contravention to any other council in Melbourne. The matter again is a matter of enforcement. If people can still adhere to the 1.5 metre distancing, wearing masks, it is really their decision with regards to attending dog parks. They're not prohibited in terms of attendance. And we understand that the Premier made an announcement today that the previous requirements related to one parent taking a child to a playground is also to be removed within the next 24 to 48 hours. So we see an ongoing lessening of controls and restrictions. We always, I suppose, have a view, and the advice given previously to people in that community is if they are concerned with regards to compliance, then they do need to ring the Department of Health or VicPol. But at the end of the day, individuals need to make a decision on the proximity that they will have to other people. I myself have taken my dog to a dog park and it's been fine, but if there are too many people in them, then people need to make sure that they comply with the procedures of 1.5 metre distancing and wearing masks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Keasley. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next question. Can the Council's environmental workshops include, particularly around the Keysborough South area, include the dangers of feeding bread to the ducks and why putting goldfish in waterways is not advisable?
Mr Keasley, please.
Yes, this one will be a much shorter answer. The answer is yes, we can and we will. In addition to the, I can say, award-winning signage that we have in that particular area that advises people not to feed bread to ducks, etc. So yes, Councillor Garrett, we can certainly add those to the list of things to do in our workshops.
Thank you. Councillor Garrett, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can we have an update on the solar savings program? When will it commence and what is the capacity of the program this time round?
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Council has actually previously been involved in the Solar Savers program. However, our involvement ended in June last year at this point in time. The reason for it concluding at this point was primarily due to the cost of the program to Council and also the very low uptake that we received from the community. Unfortunately, we only had 2 systems installed during that timeframe, despite a fair bit of effort around promoting that product. It's been identified that the COVID restrictions and impacts have had a significant sort of impact on the project being able to go forward successfully. So when the pandemic passes, which is hopefully sooner rather than later, from an officer perspective, we're more than happy to look at reinstigating the program, obviously subject to funding being made available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, as part of the climate emergency strategy, has the Council audited Council investments to move away from fossil fuels and look for opportunities to invest in clean energy alternatives and sustainable industries? If not, when will this occur?
Ms Hanson, please.
Thanks, Councillor Garrard. Through you, Madam Mayor, Council's investment activities are quite constrained by the Local Government Act regulations and also Council's investment policy. We can definitely undertake an audit and we can probably align this with Council's investment policy update, which is due to be reviewed in the next 12 months. Probably something that's worth also noting is that Council already does invest frequently with non-fossil fuel investing institutions that are listed on the Market Forces website. So that website basically compares fossil fuel investments positions of a number of institutions. Council also has roughly, probably at the moment, around 9% of its investment portfolio with green deposits and those that don't fund fossil fuels. So we also actively seek information from financial institutions and to see whether they're also offering similar products like green bonds. There's also certainly a possibility to broaden Council's investment, provided they are within the parameters of Council's investment policy.
Thank you, Ms Hanson. Councillor Garrard.
Just a follow-up question, Madam Mayor. The audit, when would the audit be undertaken?
Ms Hanson, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So we can actually undertake that and align that in the next 12 months. So you've got to remember that Council's investments change daily. So we do invest currently with the major banks, so it won't change much from month to month, but we can align it with the policy update. So we can definitely do one within the next 12 months.
Thank you, Ms Hanson. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, what percentage of the Council's energy is now provided by gas?
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, based on the latest annual energy data, approximately 11.8% of Council's energy usage was comprised of gas across all facilities.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And so what is the status of the feasibility report investigating options and timing of an accelerated phase out of natural gas from existing Council facilities?
Mr Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the gas transition feasibility process has commenced and we've undertaken some detailed energy audits recently across 7 Council assets, those audits were undertaken by independent consultants. Once these audits are finalised, it's intended they'll provide a template which can be applied to be used across the remainder of all other council facilities. Once these audits are completed, a report will be detailed, outlining the options for council to phase gas usage out in its facilities, and that will be brought to council at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Councillor Garrard.
Just a follow-up question, Madam Mayor, on timeframes for that report to come back to council.
Mr Jackson,
through you, Madam
please.
Mayor, my understanding is that the intention is for that work to be completed by the end of this financial year.
Thank you, Mr Jackson. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My last question is, have council's position descriptions been updated to facilitate internal champions and accountability for the council's response to the climate and ecological emergency through its community health, wellbeing and emergency management related actions?
Mr Benny, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Garrard. I wasn't able to obtain a definitive answer to that before tonight's meeting, Councillor Garrett, so I'd like to take that on notice and advise you in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Benny. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lim, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just very, sad to have a big loss of Merle Mitchell. And I will always remember her for her fascinating interest in supporting migrants who settled in Enterprise Hostel in Springvale. She did contribute so much to Springvale, our city of Greater Dandenong, and so on, especially Springvale Community Aid and Advice Bureau. And I have very close contact with her for 30 years, and we had a good relationship with her up to now, lately that she passed away, and just very, very sad to lose her. Yeah, just like to report about my activity the last 2 weeks. On Tuesday, the 14th of September, Mr. Kevin Van Boxtel and myself had a good tour around Springvale Activity Center regarding outdoor dining, and especially we discussed about more sitting bench in Springvale and also the renovation of 3 pits. And also, Mr. Van Boxtel took me to inspect the construction site of Springvale Boulevard as well. Thank you, Mr. Van Boxtel, that spent his time and a great discussion regarding to how to improve Springvale Activity Center. And at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, I had a CEO performance review by Teams. On Friday, I had a meeting on the 17th of September. I had a meeting through team with Kevin Van Boxtel as well, and Colin Johnson, Matt McNally, Nilani Pendithan, regarding the Springvale Activity Center, or regarding Springvale Boulevard. The idea of the discussion, because I have a lot of questions from business owner and from visitor to Springvale, and now I have some idea who to contact, who to discuss, especially Mr. Matt McNally, that he in charge of the construction. Thank you for, Mr. Kevin Van Boxtel organized that, and Colin Johnson. On the 22nd of September, I had attended by Zoom on a VASA organized Father and Mother Day celebration, and just a very unexpected speech that the President wanted me to give a speech. Is a great opportunity to to promote the vaccination to our community, especially Springvale Ward and City of Greater Dandenong Ward, and also by explaining about the risk and the benefit of vaccination, and also how to look after themselves. And the most important is we just let them know that we have so many what we call state vaccination clinic, and also pharmacies and GP as well. And not just that, it's a great celebration that they organize. Not just that, it's just talk about health seminar as well. And I think that's about all for me. And my first question to relevant officer, just want to find out what is the vaccination rate in our city.
Mr. Keasley, please. Is that you?
No, I'm afraid that's not one that I know, but I can certainly check with Scott Walker and find out I think the easiest and quickest way is if you go on the Age website or DHS website and put in City of Greater Dandenong, that can tell you. But we can certainly get an update out to councillors tomorrow, as I think we're getting very much closer to the 80%.
72.4% best days.
Getting it, when I say 80%, I meant across metropolitan Melbourne, and we'll see where we sit within that figure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry. Just thank you, Mr. Keasley. I think the good idea is try to inform our councillor on a regular basis. It's a good idea that at least we have some idea how to promote vaccination in our city. And just a feedback to Mr. Keasley. Should it be possible for us to put on website regarding to, to website or social media to educate our constituent again? Because I feel like our residents still don't understand much about the benefit of vaccination, and also the most important, how to wear masks correctly, how to wash their hand correctly. And also the most important, I heard from Professor Peter Collin, he think that if we can wear glasses, probably reduced by 50% of the transmission, not just mask probably reduced by 20% only. And also not just that, if our residents have sign or symptom, please go to, the testing hub. The reason I say that, I come across some of my customer come to my pharmacy, and sometimes they have sign and symptom, and because they did have a test about a few weeks ago and have negative, but now they think that is negative again. I keep encourage them to go for a test again, because testing is very important. If they don't test, they be going to have problem, because why our transmission can go up and up, our case, because we less testing. And secondly, probably we don't do correctly QR code. Some people are reluctant to do QR code as well. That's my feedback. If we can put on website and also on social media. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Right, Ms.
My
Bragg,
second
please.
question is, sorry.
Ms. Bragg,
Yeah,
please.
Paul would like to say something, Paul.
Yep. Ms. Bragg, if you could answer Councillor Lim for me, please.
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for that question, Councillor. We do have links to all that information on our website, and we are regularly sharing it on social media. If you go to our website, there's a red banner at the top of every page. So it doesn't matter if you're looking for something else on our website, every single page you go to will have that red banner across the top of the page with links to all the latest COVID information. So please feel free to let people know that that is there, and it's linking through to all the state data so that it is the latest information that's available there. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I just make a quick comment just in regard to Councillor Lim's question about educating the cold community? I just want to highlight the work that the council is supporting with the cold task force, who have 90 community champions out in the community every day in various cold communities, educating them in language, in culturally appropriate ways. They're doing a tremendous amount of work, and it's having a great benefit. I just wanted to highlight that to him.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank you
Garrard.
for that, Rhonda. Just one another feedback. What about all our councillors? Do you have any Facebook that try to promote vaccination in your wards? Because the most important for me, I do for social media on a weekly basis or sometimes twice a week, just mainly to update about our vaccination, about the benefit of vaccination, and also the side effect of the vaccination, that sort of thing. Yeah, if we can put on social media for every councillor, probably would be good for our residents, I think.
Everyone okay
Thanks.
with that? Putting it on their Facebook page?
Okay.
And
And
Ms.
my
Bragg,
second
if you could,
question
sorry,
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry about
Councillor Lim, Ms. Bragg, if you could provide a statement for everyone to put on their Facebook page, please. Thank you very much. Now, Councillor Lim. Councillor Lim.
You unmuted, Lim.
Unmute yourself, Councillor Lim.
Sorry about that, Madam Mayor. Just for regarding to information about vaccination and the benefit of all those vaccines, I can provide to all the councillor. I can email to all the councillor about the benefit, about the efficacy of the vaccine, the sourcing, and so on and so on. Yeah, I will do the next day or so. My second question is that would it be possible for us to do something urgently regarding to homeless on our shopping activity center? I have so many complaints on the regular basis, sometimes almost every day from the doctors as well. The reason I said that is, I give you an example of Springvale activity center. Some street is with Queens Avenue. These gentlemen, or probably 1 or 2 or 3 homeless, they put so many belonging on the footpath. And my concern is, if someone walk past, is trip over those sort of belonging, who is responsible for that if they had accident due to that sort of thing? And if we can do something urgently to remove all these people out of our shopping activity center, would be good, because it look very bad to our city, especially. And people keep complaining and complaining about that. Why we don't do anything in our city? But I said other cities have the same issue, but they don't comprehend whatever I said. Yeah.
Mr. Jackson, please. Yep.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you for the question. Yeah, we'll have a further discussion with our Community Services Department and others, and we'll see what we can do and come back to you shortly, Councillor Lim.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson. My third question is, just would like to understand more about the private property in Springvale Activity Center. But today, thank you so much for Paul that respond to me very quickly and promptly, because some GP, some other shopping center really look very dirty, and especially in some private shopping center, they have so many rubbish, especially behind the number 5 St. John Avenue, a lot of rubbish, a lot of glasses, and so on and so on. And just my concern, if we can use our authority to reinforce to the body corporate to make sure they do their job properly, to make sure it's keep up to the standard of our city. And thanks for Paul that sent me the answer that we're going to send someone like Luke Mullen to inspect the site. It's great, and thank you so much, Paul, for that feedback. And it's a very good for our city, especially in some private property. Thanks, Paul. And my fourth question is that for Dandenong, you're going to have another 2 years for free car park. Can we offer to Springvale Activity Center as well, especially in multi-level car park? Number 8, hardly anyone use multi-level car park. If we provide free of charge, probably encourage some people to go up there as well. Thanks.
Mr. Keasley on the car park.
Thank you, Councillor. Over the last couple of years, we have considered a whole range of opportunities and incentives for the number 8 car park, including some fairly cheap worker staff permit schemes for the car park as well. There is no parking fees, of course, for on-street. There's only parking fees for off-street. Council would need to consider that. Springvale is very different terms of activity and movement. We've even seen through our recent pedestrian counts a marked difference between the levels of activity in Springvale as compared to parts of Dandenong. Parts of Dandenong relate to the need of office workers to be back and working to increase the foot traffic. In Springvale, it's not the same. It's generally families and others doing their daily shopping. But we can certainly look at the usage of number 8 Balmoral and see what we can do to encourage its use.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Lim, your time is up anyway. Thank you. Councillor Mamedi, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As we spoke before, Mr. Fiedler mentioned the consultation for the community hub has started today, and it's on our website with the concept plans. How are we going to reach our community to comment with the concept plans, are they only going to be on our website, or how is anybody else that is not really good on social media being able to comment on those concept plans?
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and Ms Sprague might be able to jump in and assist me as well. But look, as we mentioned earlier, the consultation will go out to all the previous community groups that we worked with in May and June. We have an extensive list of all the agencies, all the specific cultural support agencies, the migrant support agencies. Where appropriate, we can translate and interpret as requested into languages that community want us to do that for them. We also provide opportunities to provide feedback, not just in the written form, but also over the telephone, where people can call us, and if they need assistance, we can help link them into an interpreter or translations. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. We do tend, with 158 plus nationalities in our community, it's very hard to have specific languages, but we do, as required, put our publications and surveys such as this into requested key languages. So that's something that we're happy to hear back from the community on. But we're working very closely with the community and the agencies. It'll be promoted, the consultation will be promoted extensively, and we're always open to other ideas about how to promote. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Councillor Mamedi.
Can we also write to the local primary schools and high schools in the surrounding area to get their input as well?
Mr. Fiddler, please.
Oh, yes, we can take that. If it's not already on the list, Councillor, I'm happy to suggest to the team that goes on the list. I believe schools and early years facilities have been consulted in previous consultations, but that's definitely something we'll make sure as we come out of school holidays. The other thing is as school children will go back after these school holidays as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Councillor Mamedi.
My next one is regarding the new Aquatic Center. Where is council up to with that, and what's the next processes, and what's the community consultation on the concept plans on that, and actually the location as well?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, the proposed location of the Dandenong Wellness Centre, or the new swimming pool centre, is on Cleland, up at Mills Reserve. We've just completed the concept planning stage with a consultation phase directly linked to that, and we're now entering the schematic phase over the next probably until the end of November, in which case we will then put the schematic plans out for further community consultation. So that'll be the second of the consultation phases linked directly to the new centre. We hope to have that out between, say, the middle of November and the middle of December. And we're all very hopeful, of course, that we'll be able to do it with some face-to-face and workshops. And if the centre's open, we'll certainly be making sure that the plans are available for a whole range of people to provide commentary on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mamedi.
Are we going to also consult with the community on the exact location? I know I think there was 2 or 3 different spots that we can put it on that reserve. Are we going to consult with the community exactly where we're going to put the new Aquatic Centre or Wellbeing Centre?
That's already been done with the recent consultation on the concept phase. So we had lots of community consultation being undertaken over the last 4 to 6 weeks with regards to a whole range of groups, where it was clearly identified where the proposed centre would be on Mills Reserve. So that matter has been consulted, and we hope to get some feedback back to councillors in the coming weeks. We did update councillors at the recent councillor briefing session last week, and I'm happy, councillor, if you weren't there, to provide you with the details of that.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mamedi. Thank
you. I'd appreciate that, Mr. Keasley. Also, just an update on the new bicycle path on Hammond Road. We were always wanting clear access from the train station for people to go down Hammond Road and into the industrial part. Could we have an update on that new bicycle path and how it's going on Hammond Road?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Other than informing the councillors of what that entails, which is a wider footpath as a shared pathway route from Dandenong Creek down to the existing shared pathway down near the Danong bypass. Council, I have to take that on notice in terms of where we are actually at. Just to inform councillors, the construction ban by the state government has had an impact on our works. We have been included in the 2-week prohibition of any construction works. Now we should be okay with most of the timing for our works, and I'm not sure whether the one you specifically referred to, councillor, is impacted by that, but I can get you an update on where we're travelling with that one at the moment. The contractor has been appointed, and that's something that we can check with them as to whether or not they were able to start before the construction ban took place.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mehmeti?
Actually, that's where I was going to get to, Mr. Keasley. The works had already started. The footpaths have been ripped out, and there's been no work for the last few days. So I was just wondering whether they've also been laid off for this week as well. So it looks like they have. So yeah, thank you for that. Also, I had an email from a resident that lives on Williams Avenue in Dandenong, especially the area where the primary school is, where the oval is. There's a huge section of the footpath that has been damaged, and it's been damaged for quite a while, actually. And could council please have a look into that?
Mr. Keasley, please.
Yes, we certainly can, councillor. I can get the details off you, and we can send out some people to have a look at it.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mehmeti?
Also, the feasibility study regarding the Dandenong train station, are they going to consult the council or the community?
Mr. Keasley, please.
We've had one meeting with the officers who are undertaking that particular piece of work. We now understand somewhat to our, sort of a dissatisfaction to some degree, is that it's looking at two matters: accessibility and surveillance. Now, those two matters alone are good to look at, because we know that in recent surveys undertaken and in feedback we've received that the station does have an issue with regards to accessibility and surveillance in terms of making it feel safe for people. We were hopeful that the feasibility study would look at a broader opportunity with regards to linking in with both the recently announced Development Victoria Capital Alliance program, but also the hopefully the Dandenong Stadium proposal. That is clearly not going to be the case. We can certainly ask those people in DOT the extent of any consultation that they intend to do, and we would then be able to advise councillors of that information. That wasn't something that was covered at the meeting, but we can certainly ask them the question and see what they say.
Okay, so the actual feasibility study is not for a new station. It's more about surveillance.
Correct. No, it's just purely, we believe, to be on matters related to the feedback they get constantly through surveys, which is about improving accessibility, DDA compliance, and surveillance with regards to matters related to safety. Now, we're very hopeful that we take the view that this could be part one of many parts of an improved station that relates not only to the need for a stadium, but also the impact of the Development Victoria Capital Alliance program as well. But that's something we would have to continue to advocate for.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Mehmeti?
Thank you, Mayor. And lastly, I'd also like to pay my sincere condolences to Merle Mitchell's family. Merle was a lovely lady who I had lots of respect for, who first and foremost thought about the community and how her input to the community and how many lives she touched. So it's a very sad moment, I guess. And yes, I will certainly definitely miss Merle in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Councillor Milkovich, please.
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I also note with sadness the passing of Merle Mitchell AM, who was behind the initiations of so much of the community infrastructure in Greater Dandenong. In particular, institutions that maintain and improve the social capital of residents of Springvale. Merle's fingerprints are everywhere, and her legacy should never be forgotten. Now, on a personal note, I'll never forget my first week of election as a councillor in 2012. I was called to a meeting with Merle Mitchell at Lexington Gardens Retirement Village, where Merle gave me a tour and impressed upon me very strongly the importance of the Spirit of Enterprise Tribute Garden. And that memory remains vivid to me to this day. So my question without notice to officers is, could council start considering options for this council to permanently recognise Merle Mitchell in some form?
Yes, we will be. In what form, we don't know at the moment. But for those who don't know, there is a tree that was donated by Eric and Merle, planted at Springvale Hub, and there's a plaque under that tree. That tree is right near the playground, if anyone wants to go and have a look at it.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I had to report.
Thank you. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I would like to also send my condolences to Merle Mitchell, AM, her family, especially Eric, her husband, and also the whole family. So Merle is one of the person that I respected, and she is also one of the Aging Advisory Committee members. So we only had a meeting a few weeks ago, which is online meeting. So it is really sad to see her pass so suddenly. So I just want to share my thought to the family during this difficult time. I got a few questions for our relevant officer. So the first one just regarding to the cleaning program. I got a phone call from one of our residents in Noble Park. Just want to ask to the relevant officer, what is our schedule regarding to cleaning, especially along, around the Noble Park activity centre, which is footpath, paving or concrete. They haven't seen anything happen for a few months already. So what is our schedule? They're usually done like around the shopping centre. Thanks.
Mr. Keasley, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, they would have seen it in at least a few days. I'm rather surprised that they're saying they haven't seen it for months. We've continued to maintain the cleaning of activity centres on our regime. I can find out precisely what the regime is with regards to collection, but with places like Noble Park, if it's not once a day, could be twice a day, it's certainly going to be noticeable over a period of at least a few days. So if the resident can give you some more details precisely where the issue may be, then that's something we can certainly follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Keasley. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you. I can send you some information just mainly along the shopping street. So footpaths, concrete, pavement along there. My second question just regarding to, this is in Springvale Central Ward. So also a resident contacted me again regarding to a property on 29 Comber Street in Noble Park. Regarding to the anti-social behaviour, obviously it's been mentioned by the neighbours that it's a commission house, I believe. I'm not sure if it's a commission house or not, so I did send through information to the relevant officer to find out if it can get the department or the management to find out about this property. So obviously there's a lot of people living there, overcrowded, also done a lot of anti-social behaviour, especially with COVID restriction. I know it's a police issue, but can we find out what is Commission House is belong to and who manages?
Mr. Fiddler, would it be?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor. I believe it is a state government housing property, but we'll look into it and make some questions and take that on notice and provide some feedback this week. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Councillor Tan, please.
Yep. Third question, also regarding to, as mentioned before, so I just want to say congratulations to the new Woolworths store is going to be opening in Cleveland. Just regarding to the trolley issue again, so obviously it's still happening in the whole city of Greater Dandenong. You can see abandoned trolley everywhere. So to the relevant officer, could you please advise what the plan does council or the retailers have to maintain or reduce this issue in the future? Thanks.
Mr. Jackson, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, one of the conditions of the planning permit was that the applicant now needs to provide a trolley management plan to council for approval. So they will need to put forward the measures that they're going to implement to ensure that trolleys remain on site and are appropriately managed, etc. And that will then need to be approved by council before they can start the use of the facility. So there will be mechanisms in place to control that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Councillor Tan.
Thank you. Last question, just regarding to some resident that's had financial hardship. Obviously with COVID, we challenge, 2 years already. So a lot of people lost their job or reduced hours, don't have enough money to pay for the rate. Obviously, we do have a hardship policy for our council. I just want to ask the relevant officer, so with this policy, what's the maximum can resident apply for? Is it annually, once every 6 months, or has the hardship work policy work? Thanks.
Yeah, Ms. Hanson, please.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. So, Council, we do get a number of hardship applications, probably more so in the last 12 months, where we are seeing repetitive ones. So they can apply again, but they're all assessed individually as they come in. So there's no restriction. They can apply 6 months ago and they can apply again. But we suggest that the majority of the people who do apply to put forward all their financial information, including visiting financial counsellors and all the possible information for council officers to make that assessment.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. That's all I have today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Would I like to add a comment about the Commerce Street Noble Park?
Yes.
I had a good discussion with the owner of that property. He said he rang the police a few times. The police could not do anything. But when the police came, it's nothing. Could not find any problem because those people ran away or was hiding somewhere that the police could not find any problem. Why the police could not do anything? Now I asked him to take a video, try to hiding himself, try to secretly video the activity of those people.
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes,
Sorry?
Councillor O'Reilly.
Point of order. Point of order. Mayor, I think it's protocol that we wouldn't discuss individual properties or police matters around those properties in public. I think that communication is better done sort of in private. That's my advice. Thanks, Mayor.
Not a problem. Thanks, Councillor O'Reilly. Councillor Lim, if you get in contact with Mr. Jackson and relay your request to him, and probably work with the local police as well as council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Tan, you finished, have you?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. Councillor Trong, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Because some people, residents live around Harrow Road and also on Harrow Road as well. They would like, they say that they hear that the traffic light will be set up at the corner of Harrow Road and Corrigan Road, and they would like to know when will the start it, if the council know.
What was that? I didn't quite
Thank
catch
you, Councillor. I can take that one on notice
Councillor,
and get
oh,
some
sorry,
information
Mr.
back to you
Peasley,
as soon as
please.
possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Trong?
That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
That's it. Thank you. On Wednesday, the 15th of September, I was into an introduction to the Disability Inclusive Volunteering Project online meeting. On the 21st of September, 7 special event. Dr. Keith Sutter AM, former Australian Communicator of the Year and recipient of the Australian Government Peace Medal. I attended their event. And on the 22nd of September, I attended Vassavik Father's Day and Mother's Day online celebration. And on the 23rd of September, I attended the Noble Park Revitalisation Board online meeting. On Friday, the 24th of September, I attended Road Safety South East executive meeting online. Due to the long lockdown that we're experiencing at the moment, I would like to encourage everyone to contact friends and family, especially ones who are living on their own, and ask the question, are you okay? Mental health is a big issue at the moment, and thank you very much. And I also encourage those who have not yet had their COVID injections to please do so. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you. Mr. Benny, questions taken on notice at the last meeting, please.
Yes, Mayor and Councillors, there are 11 councillor questions taken on notice at the last meeting. All have been answered and are tabled this evening.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, urgent business. As there's no urgent business, I declare this meeting closed at 8:51, and thank you very much for your attendance. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.